SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
When your health matters most, trust South Central Regional Medical Center. From family care to life-saving treatment, our team is here for you. Find our services at scrmc.com. South Central Regional Medical Center. Excellent care and service, every patient, every interaction, every time.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. Hello. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Will East, in for the vacationing rhino. We'll be guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music. Morning there, Will.
Good morning.
Well, I just want to say on behalf of SuperTalk and our fine audience, we appreciate you working all the overtime. It's unfortunate circumstances with the unexpected passing of our late colleague, Lance Tolbert. But I know you're working a lot. It's appreciated. Moving from one to another, man. Yeah. You had Richard this morning, and then here locally, the legal show with Richard Swartz and Associates. And now MidDays. We're going to give you a break today. It's a 2-hour show. But we do appreciate that. We got a lot of stuff going on. This is kind of an interesting story, not really political related. A pilot, I'm looking at a video here, Will, landed a plane over the weekend on a Florida interstate. And I'm looking, this is from NBC 15 News, landed on I-10 east in Escambia County. A lot of people from here travel that route as they go vacationing to the beaches there in the Panhandle. But what's incredible, I don't know who caught it on video, honestly, but it's a low-wing, single-engine aircraft. Looks like maybe a Piper Cherokee or something. But had to get under the big metal sign.
Whoa, I just watched it.
Is that incredible?
That's like something out of a video game.
Yeah, and apparently those big sign holders across the roads are called gantries. I don't think I've ever heard of that word, Gantry, but got under it. That's incredible. And landed there on the interstate, made an emergency landing, and that happened on August 3rd.
The video I'm watching also it's a truck driver.
Oh, really?
It has his reaction. And his reaction is, I don't know. Okay, so you're driving along, Gerard, just minding your own business down Interstate 10, and a plane goes swooping over you and underneath this gantry contraption, whatever it is, to land.
Yeah.
The guy just points at it. Now, I'd be all over the road, I'd probably wreck, just like getting stunned by that. But this guy, you can tell he's a veteran. He just points at it.
Exactly.
There's a plane.
Hey, I reckon you see a lot of stuff out there on the roads, right? Oh, my gosh. So fascinating that this pilot was able to land, emergency landing. I'm not sure what actually happened that required the emergency landing. So a pilot and a flight student reported, mechanical issues. All right, so I guess now that's it. That's interesting because I'm not buying that this was a student in the left seat that made this landing. Maybe this was a true certified pilot that had the student in the right seat for some reason. But
interstates, that's one of the purposes of an interstate.
Yeah.
I think it's law that every couple of miles you have to have a straightaway so that a plane can land for emergency.
Actually, military purposes.
Oh, military.
Yeah,
purposes.
The original concept of the 50s, I believe I got this right, of the interstates was, remember, this was during the period we were constantly concerned about nuclear attacks. And it was to survive a nuclear attack and be able to transport military assets, including take off and land planes. You got to remember the time period, right? Yeah. So, believe when I researched that years ago during the Eisenhower administration is where all that came from, and the system was devised. And it was primarily to facilitate military operations. Which is why you're right. You can definitely tell when you're on an interstate versus even a 4-lane state road, like 49 in Mississippi, for example. It's got a lot more turns and curves in it than you'd find on 55 or 20. It's pretty much straight. I used to laugh that when I lived down in New Orleans and I was working in California, I was flying then, but one time I did drive. One red light, get on I-10, and the next stop's L.A. I mean, no red lights between there. So, incredible. Huh. But watching that, it could be that the actual pilot was in the right seat and could have executed that landing. Now, they could do that because you have all the same controls over there. But that's not a plane that you would train a student in unless that student was seeking certification in that particular aircraft type. But nonetheless, I just thought that was fascinating. Speaking of airplanes, what about NORAD fighter jets having to intercept a couple of aircraft near Trump's golf club there, Bedminster, New Jersey? This happened on Sunday. Spent the weekend at the golf club. What's going on with this? Seems like every week there's another incident involving the president, a security-type incident, and it happens to happen at golf courses. The other one was in California, right? A couple of weeks ago, another wacko that looked like was up to no good. So the official said that the aircraft, and this could have been just somebody busting the airspace, because it was general aviation aircraft. It wasn't any kind of military aircraft from, say, adversaries. And I can tell you that as a private pilot, you gotta watch out. You gotta know what you're doing. You got restricted airspace, and sometimes it's restricted temporarily. Like you may have unrestricted airspace over the golf club normally, but when the president's there, it's restricted. And they'll tell you when you file your flight plan, hey, look, we got a temporary restricted airspace. And you need to look at the map or whatever the tools are available. Today used to be maps to figure out. And you stay away from there, right? You're stupid if you bust in across those boundaries. That wouldn't be very smart. But, yeah, as soon as they broke through, even plain old general aviation Cessna aircraft, NORAD, they launched the jets to run them off, essentially. So, interesting that was going on. Are you watching this story with a couple of these NBA players that say they're going to declare for the draft in the WNBA? And they're testing, I guess, the limits of the WNBA. Like, what's up with the W in WNBA? Apparently, their rules are pretty weak. And I think this is an indication that the leadership of the WNBA is a little too woke and won't come out and say, this is a league for biological females. They're stopping short of saying that. It's just mind-blowing to me that our country is so upside down over this gender nonsense. I have a hard time fathoming it. There's just so much about it. And then, sadly, there was a 7-year-old that was found dead, tied up with duct tape in a closet, had signs of being burned and tortured. This was in Ohio. And it's another crazy thing. His mother lived with 2 men pretending to be women. And the media, by the way, Will, in Ohio, calling them women. No, they're not. They're men pretending to be women. And certainly in this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. But it looks like there's something going on, and we've certainly talked about that a lot on this program. These people already have some mental illness, in my view, and they need to be treated accordingly. And I think this drives them to commit these heinous crimes. It just seems like it's over and over again. We see examples of this stuff. And this radical gender ideology is absolutely out of control. I caught another story related to this where out in California at a school board, Ventura County School Board, Amber Thompson, another man who thinks he is a woman, is running for Ventura County School Board, endorsed, get this, by the Women's Democratic Club and lectured women on women's progress for International Women's Day. It's just mind-blowing. We've got Representative Rodney Hall joining us at 11:05 today, coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Hello. Now back to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Are you thinking about or planning for retirement? Do you have a plan? Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income, growth, and guarantees. The C Spire text line wide open, 601-879-4395. Jimbo in Gluckstadt says interstate overpasses are also engineered to be makeshift flight control air traffic controllers. Appreciate that. I wasn't aware with that. Let's see what else we got on the C Spire text line here. I heard he saw a shadow and slowed down, and that's when the plane went past him. Okay, interesting. Don't know if y'all saw, but Sophie Cunningham with the WNBA was hard fouled for essentially saying men don't belong in women's sports. The player who fouled her then tweeted from the locker room about white supremacy. If roles were reversed, Sophie could have been arrested for a hate crime. I did see that, and I thought that was disgusting, honestly. I support Sophie, and I think she's right in calling attention to that and voicing and expressing her concerns about men invading the WNBA. And these two big burly NBA guys are going to declare for the draft. That's really fascinating. I don't have it in front of me, Will, but the mishmash, mealy-mouthed statement the WNBA made was the old standard, we're about justice and inclusion and diversity. No, you're the WNBA. That doesn't apply. It's women competing against women in the game of basketball. That's what it's supposed to be about. But, oh my gosh, they had to lean into their virtuous nonsense, just gibberish is really what it was more than anything. Really disgusting. And then, along the same lines here, Will, the Daughters of the American Revolution, they're struggling with this gender thing. It's daughters.
What?
I'm not kidding you. Dispute over transgender members. I know. It's insanity. It's supposed to be a women's group for women, Daughters of the American Revolution. And there apparently is a dispute. They have 190,000 members, 3,000 chapters, one in every state, plus Guam, and 12 foreign countries. More than 1 million women have joined the Daughters of the American Revolution since its founding over 100 years ago, that according to its website. So what really was so shocking to me is the number within the group that support this nonsense. That there are some members of the DAR that do believe they should be more inclusive. There is actually a faction within the Daughters of the American Revolution titled Daughters for Inclusivity. Oh, my gosh. They got 3,600 members on their Facebook site, and they say that the DAR to be open to, quote, all women who prove American Revolution lineage, adding, yes, trans women are women. It's insanity. It totally is. You can't make it up, as they say. So they've got a little rift going on within the DAR. Can it get any crazier? I just wouldn't have thought you've seen that. You kind of think of those guys as the colloquial, informal term. The DAR is being more patriotic, and maybe I'm wrong for associating patriotism with recognition that there are two biological sexes. And when you have an organization known as the Daughters of the American Revolution, that should be restricted to women, just like the WNBA. It's out of control. It totally is. I thought we were past it, but it seems like every day there's just new evidence that there are crazy people in our country pushing this radical gender ideology down our throats. Now, some 5,000 members came to the DAR headquarters, according to a social media post, and they're demanding a meeting with the officers, and they're, of course, at odds with the inclusivity faction. This is crazy. I mean, I would say this, forced inclusion, forced diversity achieves nothing. That's just the most egregious form of, I say, greed. It's virtue signaling. You somehow get some sort of perverse, twisted, distorted pleasure out of allowing men, biological men, in an organization that is supposed to be restricted for women. That just makes no sense to me. But that's exactly what is going on. It just seems like every day there's another story. Now, tomorrow, by the way, we got another round of primaries. We got over in Georgia, Will, the primary for U.S. Senate to replace the recently deceased, I said Georgia, South Carolina, pardon me, Lindsey Graham. His sister, of course, on the ballot, as well as a few others. But that's, in a hurry they put that thing up. Because, gosh, how long is the senator, how long ago did he pass away?
Just been a few weeks ago.
Two weeks
on
or
a
so
Sunday,
ago.
so it's just been a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so you got an interesting field, but right now, of course, his sister, Darlene Graham, was appointed to the post, and she made the decision to run, and I think the president, if I'm not mistaken, has endorsed her, but there's some others in the race as well.
Yeah, Russell Fry, who's a representative, Ralph Norman.
Ralph Norman's probably the highest name.
Yeah, well, Mark Sanford's in there too.
Sanford,
he's done with his walk with his girlfriend, disappearing,
gosh.
And he's back.
So he's revived. Yeah,
that guy had one of the most fun 2-week periods.
He sure did.
If you'll remember, he was the governor, right?
Yep.
And, normally the governor of a state, you kind of know where, maybe they go on vacation occasionally. I don't know.
Yep.
He disappeared.
Yep.
He up and disappeared.
I know.
And so everybody was looking for him. Where's the governor? And Governor Sanford was finally emerged a few days later, and he's like, I was on a hike somewhere. And turns out he wasn't on a hike. He was with
exactly right.
His girlfriend.
Yep. I remember that.
And that torched his career. So now he's trying to make a little comeback.
Yeah. So, but that's up. That's on the ballot. But then I guess the big race that everybody's kind of taking a look at, watching, is the race for governor primary in Wisconsin. And it's Francesca Hong that is a far left nutcase candidate. And, of course, the Democratic establishment is trying to stop another round of what they're referring to as Socialist Tuesday. But, yeah, so that's an issue with her on the ballot. And she's kind of having a hard time. She's waffling back and forth on where she stands on many of the issues. But she's about as far left as I think you can see. It's kind of scary to think that she's likely, she's leading in the polls right now, that she's likely to be the Democratic candidate. And she's got some far left ideas, including, I heard this morning, some of her ideas. She, of course, is a socialist bartender. She's the next big hope for the socialist, again, running for governor. But in Wisconsin, she wants to cap energy bills, if you're below a certain income level, at 2% of your income. And the government apparently is going to pay for it. But she wants the government to be in the banking business and also in the utility provision business as well. Of course, she wants crazy taxes, but she's having a hard time explaining her taxes. She wants to offer illegal immigrants state IDs, and she wants to use sanctuary policies to, quote, protect Wisconsinites of all documentation status from secret police. She wants the minimum wage at $20, legalize marijuana, and she wants 60% of all energy to come from renewable sources in a few years. Coming right back.
From the Seabrook.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert, here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
So what this Francesca Hong wants, Will, I touched on it before we went to break, with respect to clean electricity, that 60% of the power produced and consumed in Wisconsin would be renewable by 2030. 4 years. 3.5 years. 60%. She wants to cap utility costs at 2% of income for, quote, energy-burdened households, whatever that is. And then, of course, she wants to raise taxes. That's a standard plank in all the socialist platforms on, of course, corporations and those dirty, greedy, wealthy people. Their current corporate tax rate in Wisconsin, 7.9%. There's a lot of great businesses based in corporations in Wisconsin. Bring them down here where it's much more tax-friendly. The highest business rate in the country, by the way, 11.5% in New Jersey. So, Will, you know where most of the pharmaceutical companies in this country are headquartered? New Jersey. So think about that for a second. You know they're passing on that cost in the drugs we consume that they produce.
Absolutely.
They're paying that ridiculous 11.5%. So she wants the tax rates, which, by the way, in New York City, on personal income, when you add the city income tax, 14.8%. Contrast that to here in Mississippi, we're currently under, in this year, 4% of all taxable income over $10,000, going to 3.7 next year, 7.5. So she wants to raise it by at least 10% in Wisconsin. I mean, think about that, Will. As if already people who live in Wisconsin don't have a reason to escape the brutal winters. I've spent some time in the winter up there. It's pretty brutal. To go to, I don't know, Florida or Arizona, where the tax bite is considerably less, that would be devastating and ruinous in my view. But that's certainly what she's standing on at this point, some of her policies. Like I said, wants to create a bank with below market interest loans that would be owned by the taxpayers, by the way. So we're not just into government-owned grocery stores now. We're creating banks as well, is what she wants to do. Yeah, I know. So it is a concern that these candidates are rising in this country and they're getting attention, they're getting traction, they're gaining support. Have you seen the presidential polls at this point? Way early, of course, 2 years out on the Democrat side. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez leads almost in every poll.
She was making waves yesterday. She was on one of the talk shows. I can't remember which one, but I believe it was ABC This Week. I will give her this. She is very creative.
Yeah.
So they were asking her about some of the rhetoric being used, like defund police and all this kind of stuff. Well, she came up with a term for all that. She called it woke one.
I saw that. Yeah. What is that all about? Explain that.
She essentially said that the positions that she supported during the pandemic year, such as defunding police, is not rhetoric that they would use today.
Okay.
In other words, what I said was not very popular and could get me not elected, or others not elected, if they use those terms. So we're not going to use them anymore.
Okay.
Woke one.
Oh.
I don't know if we're in woke 2 now, woke 3, woke 2.5,
okay.
2.3, 5, 6, 7.
Gotcha.
I don't know which version of woke we're in. But she defines woke 1 as those crazy, if you'll remember, March, April 2020, up until probably about, I don't know, the election of Joe Biden, maybe the first year of Joe Biden. I guess that would be woke 1.
Okay. No, I remember. That's
defund
when
police.
Yeah.
All the big hits.
All triggered by the George Floyd incident.
Yes.
Every bit of it came from that. I remember the first story I shared on the program. Of course, the dominoes started falling. Remember, Major League moved the All-Star game, and it just one thing after another. The NBA and all their crazy slogans and signage and stuff like that. But the one I remember, and I still talk about when I speak, Will, that I shared on the program here, and this was August 2020. August 2020. And it was a report about a company called Sandia Labs. I'm going to tell you what Sandia Labs did, and then I'm going to tell you who they are. So they sent all of their management team off-site for a series of workshops and seminars, if you will, off-site. It was required, mandated attendance. And what they taught was that white male culture lives to, quote, lowered quality of life at work, at home, reduced life expectancy, unproductive relationships, and high stress. They said rugged individualism, a can-do attitude, hard work, and striving towards success are, in fact, quote, devastating to women and people of color. This is the most disturbing aspect of this. This company, Sandia Labs, they make this country's nuclear weapons. That's what they do. So it's the same old boilerplate statement where a spokesperson said, inclusion and diversity are defining elements of our culture. We welcome multiple perspectives, promote different working styles. We find it leads to innovation in science, engineering, and technology. They wouldn't specifically confirm whether or not this survey took place, but Christopher Rufo, he got all the documents. Several people, he writes for an organization, a media outlet called City Journal, and he kind of focuses on all this crazy stuff. He's the one that discovered the gender treatment at Vanderbilt and had leaked video from Vanderbilt, the medical school, where they got, some muckety-muck standing in front of all the healthcare professionals telling them how lucrative this is going to be. And remember, the governor had to step in, as I recall. I think it was Bill Lee at the time that said, yeah, we ain't doing that. So, but, look, when you got people attending these events and sending him screenshots and documents, because they think it's crazy, and they're leaking it, of course. But I just found it interesting that this is coming from the company this country relies on for its nuclear arsenal, which is pretty critical to our defense. Speaking of which, the president says he's taking a bit of a different approach, that he is, quote, says we are low-keying it, end quote, with Iran and taking a more economic pressure route. He's angry. He's frustrated because they keep holding up on an announcement. But, of course, Iran says, no, there is no announcement. So the president says, look, Iran is, quote, in very bad shape, end quote, economically. So they can't pay their troops. That's the first I've heard of that. That's what the president reported. Iran is unable to pay their troops. They say that the U.S.'s naval blockade has really caused Iran to spend a lot of money and expend a lot of assets on trying to deal with our Navy in the Strait. Of course, oil is today is up to about $81 a barrel. It was down in the $75 range last week. It's up again. And the president says it's going to work out. Always works out. It's like a chess game with the back and forth with Iran.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere where not exporting oil is costing Iran something to the tune of $400 million per day.
Yeah.
It don't take many days of that
for
you to feel the pinch.
They're reporting like 80% inflation or something insane like that. So, I mean, it is causing massive problem. And I believe the population of Iran, like 90 million people, there's a bunch of people crammed into that relatively small geographic area. So it just causes huge problems. And so the president seems to be taking a little different approach, different strategy here. And this is what Ronald Reagan did with Russia. And he essentially broke them economically, which kind of ended the Cold War and to a great extent ended what was a pretty heightened threat back in those days in the 70s, 80s of even nuclear attack from Russia. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Patriotism is a...
You're listening to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Cantwell Studio. Football is here, and so is SuperTalk Mississippi. The boys are about to embark on their Not Fall Camp Tour, talking to coaches, players, and getting you ready for the start of the season. Tomorrow afternoon, SuperTalk Mississippi will be at the Landing in Starkville, where they'll have tons of giveaways. The Not Fall Camp Tour is presented by Pearl River Resort, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. Go to pearlriverresort.com for more info. So, just talking about this rise of socialism in this country and its newfound popularity. How about Zoran Mondami? I mean, I think he was the one that, I guess, was the shot heard around the world, you could say, Will, that when he got elected as mayor of America's biggest city and was very wide open about his socialist leanings and views.
Because he has actual true power. You know, a lot of these elected representatives like AOC and others, you know, they can propose things, and they certainly have influence and some degree of power, but they're not in executive positions.
Yeah, that's right. Don't have quite the stroke that, say, a mayor would. A mayor of 8 million people, right? So that's pretty big.
I mean, one of the largest, most powerful, certainly the most largest powerful city in the United States of America.
Yeah.
You know, some people have, said that's like running a small country.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. With a budget that exceeds the budget of the state of Florida.
Really?
I think I'm right there. That it's insane the amount of money they spend, and of course with a population that is a third of what Florida's is. But he has appointed Tracy Rosenthal as the mayor's housing guru and author of the book Abolish Rent. Not kidding. Now, get this, Will. She grew up.
Oh, let me before you say that. Let me guess.
Yeah.
She grew up in a very poverty-stricken family. Had to work hard all of her life to get where she is. You know, generations of poverty and all this kind of. And she just worked so hard to get to this area where she could be in a position of authority. Right?
You would be wrong, my friend. You missed it just a little bit. She grew up in a $1.7 million apartment. She has an outstanding rent of $108,000. Oh my gosh! She lives in a $2,300 a month bed-stuy is what it's called. It's one room, essentially, with a bed in it. So she also is a trust fund baby. I didn't know this. I found this in just digging a little bit, whose daddy is a 4-time Grammy winner. So she one who comes from privilege. Now, here's a question, Will. Do we have anybody in the state of Mississippi that has sort of declared that they are Democrat socialists? I'm talking about in the political domain. Do we have anybody that's come out?
Not of DSA.
In fact, the Democrats, did they even have a candidate that they've announced for any offices coming up in the 2027 elections?
No.
I haven't seen anything.
No major ones. I mean, there may be some minor ones out there, but no major ones, especially not governor.
Yeah, I've seen nothing. And I'm a little surprised that there's not at least one person that has come out and said, yeah, they're going to be a candidate. So, I've said this before on the program. Well, I think that one of the things that's got, especially the young people in this country, thinking about leaning a little more heavily into this idea of socialism, I like to describe or ascribe the reason to the fact that of what I call incumbency, that they've really never had it bad, terrible. I mean, most people in this country aren't worrying about a roof over their head and food. I'm not saying that there aren't people in those circumstances. I get it. I understand. Sometimes, however, I would argue that's of their own accord, of their own volition. That could be avoidable.
Would you rather be poor in 2026, or would you rather be poor in 1936.
And that's where I'm going. We had periods of time in this country where we experienced famine. I don't mean just a few people, and I know we have issues. We've talked to people, on our show before. We have issues like right here in our state, but a lot of that's a function of irresponsibility. When we have hungry children, when we have parents, caretakers at home that are running around with $200 purses, but their kids are hungry, or they got on $150 tennis shoes, but their kids are hungry. You know what I'm saying here. But, yeah, we actually have had famines in this country before. But capitalism and Western civilization have made us extremely wealthy, relatively speaking. And I think we've forgotten those days to a great extent. Just go back and look at some photos of the lines of people waiting for food in this country. Unfathomable. Coming right back after Fox News and SuperTalk News with Representative Rodney Hall. Of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
That's what I like to listen to.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert. Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays. It is a Monday. That means it's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews at 12:05. Right now, to kick off hour 2 of this Monday, it is Representative Rodney Hall. He serves District 20 and also serves as the vice chair of the Military Affairs Committee. Representative Hall, good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Gerard, it's good to be with you. And it was great to see you this past week in DeSoto County.
Yeah, man, it sure was. What a fantastic event that was. It's so good to gather with people who feel strongly about this great country, who are exhibiting patriotism and just have common beliefs and common aspirations, and we all get together, have a little meal, and mingle and socialize. Representative Trent Kelly delivered some outstanding remarks, and his main message there, Representative Hall, and let you talk about this, is we got to get out and vote. Don't take anything for granted with these midterms coming up.
Oh, that's so true. And you're absolutely right. That kind of feels like church going to the Reagan Day events, especially in DeSoto County. Everyone, you know that they're all there for the same purpose. They're patriots. They share our values, and they're motivated and energized to get out there and make sure that we're doing things correctly for our state and for our citizens. So you're right. Voting is absolutely critical.
Yeah, and he hammered that message, and I understand it because folks are paying attention. The turnout across the state is not as strong as it should be. We cannot rest on our laurels, take things for granted. You got Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, who's in a hotly contested race, and she's got to get the vote out. Scott Colomb has got money. He's well-funded. He's campaigning a lot. That would be a disaster for Mississippi to be representative by Mr. Colomb in the United States Senate.
Yeah, and, even more so, Gerard, is they've shown the propensity to cheat. When I say they, I mean the liberals. I remember when I was working up in Mississippi's 1st Congressional District, this was around election time, and they were doing the mail-in ballots thing, and I had a Army officer who had bought a house in D.C. proper. It was election time. She had received, she didn't request it, just received in the mail 5 different ballots for different people with the same address. And, if she was a liberal and wanted to, she could have filled that out, sent it back, and, those were votes that would have been counted. So if people think that cheating isn't happening, especially over there on the liberal side, they're mistaken. They're going to try to cheat. That's the way that they can kind of hedge their bets and try to win. And so we have to do our due diligence and show up, especially on Election Day.
Yeah, you're right. Washington, D.C., one of D.C. and I think 7 other states, if I'm not mistaken, who do mass mail out a ballot to every address in their voter rolls. That's what opens up the door for incredible fraud in elections, and compromises election integrity, because you got these ballots just showing up in the mail, like you said, getting multiple ballots to the same address, because we all know the voter rolls are not clean. They're not sanitary. That's why the president has pushed to pass the SAVE Act. Good news here in Mississippi, Representative Hall, kind of pivot to Mississippi policy. In the past session, we passed the SHIELD Act, which I think was good law. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, Gerard, I know you know this, and most of your listeners already know this, but election integrity and voting is a bedrock of our society. It's how we decide where resources will be placed, the leadership and the direction of our state and our nation. And so if we fail in that basic block of government, everything else, it's just a domino effect. It all falls to the wayside as well. And so us passing that SHIELD Act, one, I think is great for Mississippi, and I hope to see other states do the same thing. And then ultimately, Congress, they need to get their stuff together and to pass the SAVE Act.
Unfortunately, the Senate completed their business and left town without passing the SAVE Act. It's passed in the House, as you know. Senator Thune says he just doesn't have the votes to overcome the filibuster, and the Democrats are hanging on to that at this point. We got midterms coming up. What do you think, Representative Hall, about what appears to be somewhat of a surge in this country of voters into socialism and these radical candidates? We got a big race tomorrow we were talking about in Wisconsin with one that appears to be leading in the polls, Francesca Hong, who's as left as they come. What's going on there?
Yeah, this should terrify voters all across the nation. I was looking at the one that happened last week, and I want to say it was Michigan. You had the Democratic Socialist who won the Senate primary and is trying to compete to have a spot in our U.S. Senate. And I'm just telling you, back in the day, there is a time and a place for compromise and to work with the other side, but some things you just have to hold the line and fight. And so this whole notion that we don't have the votes in the Senate, I just don't think we can accept that. We got to continue to push the needle. We got to make sure that we fight, because if they really get a foot in, and I mean these Democratic Socialists, we'll be the next Cuba. We'll no longer be the land of the free, home of the brave. Yeah. And that's scary.
Yeah, I agree.
We need to get out there and vote. We need to fight.
And the president has encouraged Republicans in the Senate to repeal the filibuster and push this legislation through. He basically says what you said is we can't really have a functioning democracy if we can't assure election integrity.
Exactly. It's just absolutely critical. Our leaders up there in Washington shouldn't take no for an answer.
Yeah, I completely agree. We got to get something done there. Fight. All right, so you guys got a fair amount accomplished during the last legislative session. Many of the measures passed, of course, took effect July 1. We're prosecuting minors as adults when they commit heinous crimes, felonies. I think that's totally appropriate. You just had a special session regarding our youth courts. That went into effect. We reduced the number of years to retire at any age in PERS from 35 to 30. That was enacted last year and then reversed this year. So a fairly active, and then we got the SHIELD Act done as well. What are you thinking about this past session, and what's on the radar for the next one?
One thing that I'm extremely proud about, Gerard, especially if you look at Mississippi's history up under both Democratic and now conservative leadership, you can see that we have been doing everything in order to move Mississippi forward, and conservatives have been largely successful in a lot of different areas, whether you're talking about law and order, safer streets, better schools, better jobs and a better economy, a better fiscal position for the state. We've been doing everything that we can to improve Mississippi, and we've been successful. Now, with that said, we all know that it is it's hard out here for families, working families, to make ends meet, to continue to put food on the table, to fill up their gas tanks in order so that they can get to work, so that they can take care of their families and try to achieve the American dream. And so it wasn't last year, it might have been the year before, that we cut the grocery tax. We had the highest in the nation. That was 7%. We cut it down to 5%. I would like to see us do more in that regard. Of course, we're also still cutting the income tax. And if you're following along with the fiscal projections, we continue to exceed the revenue projections each quarter. And so I think we're still in a financial status and standing where we can provide and give some of this relief back to our Mississippi families and our workers so that they can do what they can to take care of their families and try to achieve the American dream.
Yeah, so of course the sales tax, you're right, on groceries, that was implemented last year, a reduction from 7 to 5. There's a diversion, as you know, that goes to municipalities in the states, making them whole on that account. And we're seeing income tax revenue, and even in the 2027 budget as adopted, that's expected to be a bit lower as a percentage of total revenue, just simply because we're cutting income taxes, but the sales taxes are going up. So people seem to be spending that additional money. And you're right, we're continue to produce revenue that exceeds projections. We've got a budget this year that calls for a $279 million surplus after we deposit and transfer the 2% mandatory amount into the rainy day fund.
Yep.
How can we get some of that money back to the people? We got a break right here, Representative Hall. If you can stay with us, we'll get your response to that on the other side.
Absolutely.
All right, we got Representative Rodney Hall. He represents District 20, coming right back in the Element Well studio.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Let's go.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. We're visiting with Representative Rodney Hall. He represents District 20, also serves as vice chair of the House Military Affairs Committee. So, Representative Hall, just continuing that discussion, we have been fortunate in that the state has generated handsome surpluses now for several years. Some of that, no doubt, a function of all the federal money that was dropped in here out of helicopters, as I like to say, during the COVID era, as they did it on every state. The difference is in the state of Mississippi, we just didn't spend it all. And in some cases, some of those states actually experienced a deficit situation despite all the federal money they got. But here we go again. We got a $279 million surplus projected. What do you think? Is there a way we can get some of that money back to the people now?
Absolutely. You know, one issue I take with my colleagues on the left is that they think this is a binary issue that requires a binary solution. You either cut taxes and you lose out on revenue, or you raise taxes and you get more revenue back that you can spend across the state. But there's a third option there, and I think we need to continue to do what we're doing now, grow the pie. We've had record investments all over the state of Mississippi. Of course, we had the large one up in my area in South Haven, but also in Madison, all over the state. You look at our leadership in Washington, you got Senator Roger Wicker, who is chair of the Senate Armed Services. You have Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, who serves on the Defense Committee or on the Senate side. I anticipate that we're going to see another boom of defense jobs all across the state of Mississippi. So as we continue to grow the pie, we need to continue to be responsible and give this money back to the people so that they can continue to circulate it through our economy and then also do what they need to in order to take care of their families.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Growth. I'd love to hear that narrative, that theme. That's what it's all about. It's certainly consistent with the president's vision for our country. He's been hyper-focused on that, really in encouraging American companies to reshore operations into this country. We're seeing a surge in investment. So we need in Mississippi to participate in that good fortune because there's a lot of good stuff and a lot of growth going on. I couldn't agree more. I just wonder if there's any appetite in the legislature, kind of maybe putting you on the spot here, Representative Hall. If we generate another surplus, we got money in the bank. How about just sending some checks out?
I like that idea. And since I've been in the House, and one thing I can speak on with about our Speaker, Jason White, he's been willing to take the big swings and try to address this stuff head on. And so while we do have this surplus, I think we're going to continue to exercise restraint when it comes to infrastructure and spending. But if there's an opportunity to return it back to the people, absolutely, we need to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to see you guys talk about that some. Now, as you know, we're gradually whittling away here at the income tax due to legislation that you guys passed into law last year. So more of that is coming. We'll continue to trim the tax rates, and I think that's a good thing. But we are seeing, like we said, sales tax revenues increase. But you guys are keeping spending in check despite of the fact that you gave $2,000 teacher pay raises last year that amounted to, $150, $175 million of additional spending out of the general fund, but that's baked into this year's budget and is accommodated.
Yeah, and, there's more efficiencies to be gained in government. Our teachers, they absolutely deserved that $2,000. I actually think it didn't go far enough, especially in light of what we're asking of our teachers to do as they educate our kids of, the kids of our future.
Yep.
I would like to see us revisit that and get that amount higher and more in line with the value that they're actually providing to our state. But again, there's more inefficiencies that we can weed out in government all across the state. And so by doing that, I think we'll find some additional revenues that we can spend for our teachers and for our communities.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, the House, of course, has been meeting here during the summer between the sessions. After the session, Speaker of the House, Jason White, he commissioned, 6 committees, I believe, to focus on different areas of government that he felt like needed to be explored and analyzed further. Which committee or committees are you serving on, Representative Hall?
Yeah, I am actually headed down to the Capitol now for a redistricting hearing. Of course, we have 2 different ones. We have one that was set up by the Speaker, the Select House Committee, and then we have the joint one. I serve on both. And so right now, we're having those discussions internally on the House, but then we're also going across the state and talking with constituents and Mississippians in their communities to hear their concerns when it comes to redistricting.
Okay.
Moving forward.
Okay. So do you anticipate at this point a special session? Have you heard anything indicating we may have one to take that issue up?
Absolutely. I definitely hope so. For those that followed the Supreme Court and the Calais decision, we know that most, if not all, of our maps are unconstitutional. They were drawn largely using race, and I think that we should be compliant with the Constitution and the rule of law. And so I'm hopeful that we will knock this out sooner rather than later.
Okay.
I've heard some rumors towards the end of the year, maybe November, December. I would like for us to accomplish this as rapidly as possible so we can give all the people across the state and then all the equity holders, as far as setting up the elections, getting the new maps out, et cetera, the time to do their due diligence as well.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. So, yeah, it's something it feels like would be better knocked out in a special session before you get under the dome altogether in January for the regular session.
Yeah, for sure. And, Gerard, a lot of people, there's been a lot of emotions when it comes to redistricting. One thing that I think we need to keep at the forefront of our mind is that, one, no elected official is entitled to any of these seats. even my seat. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the people of the 20th district. And so we need to, when we come to redistricting, I hope that we find the capacity to draw seats that are compact, that are more in line with how communities live, how they work, how they play in their local areas, and then come out with common sense maps so that we can continue to run government.
Yeah.
You know, one thing, I was up in Washington back when they brought back the earmark process, and on the House side, you know, that's a pretty big deal because you're directing where these funds are going all across your state in the different congressional districts. Well, when you have one district that covers half of the state and you only get 10 to 12 earmarks, there's a lot that are being left out when it comes to resourcing.
Yeah.
And so I hope that, it's my hope that we come up with common sense maps that are more representation of how we actually live, work, and attend faith and worship across our states.
Yeah, and I think you guys can. I think this idea of conducting these hearing sessions throughout the state is a solid one. You've got your colleagues, Mark Tullis and Noah Sanford, I think, from the House, heading that up. And it's Jeremy England over on the Senate side. I can't remember who's with him on the Senate side, but they're going to have these sessions all over the place. The public can go and express their thoughts.
Yeah, and I'm super hopeful that we get this right. I think we will. But again, these seats belong to the people. I want people to come out and participate because this is their government. And if they do that, I think we can get this right and continue to move Mississippi forward. Yeah,
I agree. So, you know, the Calais decision was really pivotal, was it not? But did it not make sense, though, Representative Hall, that, hey, we shouldn't be drawing districts for representation at any level in our government with the consideration of demographics, of race? That's not the way that's supposed to work.
Gerard, I've had the opportunity to live all over this beautiful world that we have. I spent some time in Europe back in 2024 after the legislative session when I deployed with the Army to that AOR. And the one thing that you see across the world is that people want to come to, or not necessarily Mississippi, but they want to come to the United States to achieve the American dream. They believe in it. I believe in it. And we're not going to reach our optimal position until we get beyond this race-based redistricting and really get into the values of what it means to be an American.
Totally agree. So, well, hopefully we can take advantage of this ruling and draw our districts in a way that is fair and makes sense, just common sense. That's what it's all about, to ensure that we have equitable and adequate representation, and race is really not a factor in that, in my view. But well,
that's my goal, and that's the lens that I'll be using as we evaluate any course of action moving forward.
Appreciate you coming on, Representative Rodney Hall. Good to see you, man. Thanks.
Thank you, Gerard.
Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
From the Seabrook.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Do you like good music? That sweet soul music. Just long as it's swinging. Oh yeah, oh yeah. We out here on the floor, y'all. I go into a go. Dancing with the music.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Now, we've got inflation data that's going to be released, the latest metrics on that. I believe that's Wednesday. Investors are paying attention to that. And I got to tell you, well, the word, the dreaded S word, is being circulated amongst economists. The S word stands for, whenever it's referred to with the adjective dreaded before it, stagflation. That means you've got high inflation, but relatively weak economic conditions and also high unemployment. Typically, when you have high unemployment, you have the opposite on inflation because fewer people are working and have money to spend. That's starting to creep up into the discussion. That's because the jobs report Friday came in with a negative 23,000, and it was estimated by economists that the economy would create 80,000. So it's 103,000 job swing there. Now, I'm kind of the opinion not to react too severely whenever they initially report the jobs data because they always go back and revise it, and it's often determined to be wrong. So, but that is on the radar this particular week. The House Democrats have pitched an AI tax fund to fund worker protections. The U.S. House, the AI Tax and Worker Protection Act. Representatives Greg Kosser and Valerie from Texas, Valerie Fushi from North Carolina, Sarah Jacobs from California. This would be a huge tax on AI developers. So that means it wouldn't be free the way it is. All these internet tools we use now that are largely free, we don't, generally speaking, write checks to Amazon Web Services, to Google, to Meta, to Microsoft. Maybe you've got some Microsoft application subscriptions. But they want to stick a big old tax on them, which I think would be really dumb. One-time 50% tax on the stock of the big AI companies to be funneled into a sovereign wealth fund. Oh, what could go wrong with that? This is crazy. This is insanity. The lieutenant governor of the state of Mississippi has formed a cybersecurity task force. You can read about it at supertalk.fm. I think this is a good idea. Mississippi hasn't been hit too terribly by cyber attacks. UMC, I guess, will, maybe the most prominent, certainly in recent memory. I remember the ransomware attack on Hinds County a couple of years ago, shut the whole dang county down. For example, couldn't file a lawsuit, couldn't look up land records, any of the various county services and functions. I've often remarked, Will, that, man, if we'd had an election during that time period, Hinds County wouldn't have been able to participate. That's how risky that is. And you may have seen, folks, reports that America's water systems are experiencing a wave of cyber attacks, our public water systems, a bunch of them. I think some 34 attacks across 12 states. I'd say, guys, they're just getting started. This has always been a concern that our systems, our basic life services are vulnerable to these attacks, and the bad guys are just waiting in the wings to wreak havoc on them. Now, you remember not so long ago, people were upset when they learned that China had infiltrated many of our voter rolls and had pulled information. Not that any of that information is confidential, honestly, but what that tells me is that if they wanted to, since they were able to penetrate and compromise those systems, they could shut down access to those systems, which means we could not conduct elections. That's a much bigger risk, in my view, than some of the other election challenges. Absolutely, we need to address those. This mass mail-out stuff should be banned, in my view. You heard Representative Rodney Hall talking about a friend of his, I think, that had like 6 ballots. Yeah, that's happening in the states that do mass mail-out. California, Colorado, Hawaii, just a couple more. I think Vermont, Washington, D.C., that district. They just sent a ballot to everybody. That's what leads to the fraudulent ballot harvesting. They just go find these ballots and fill them in and send them in. It's a little different than the system we have here, which, by the way, the president even supports, where you request a mail-in ballot. And you ain't getting but one. That's relatively safe. and secure. But when you just blow them out the door and they just end up on the street, then anybody can go get them, fill them out, send them in. That's a big problem. But cybersecurity is something we all should be concerned about. So I applaud the lieutenant governor for creating this task force of members of his chamber there in the Senate. It's something that needs to be analyzed, considered, and I would say at all levels of government, just not at state government levels. This is certainly a concern. It is a problem. Neil from Pontotoc says, teachers. What about the rest of state employees? I hear that as well, Neil, all the time. And I do have concerns that we're going to continue to increase spending at the state level on not just teachers, but I hear it as well. I think state employees they're pushing for increases as well. I think that's likely going to be taken up this next session, and that would, of course, add to our spending. I still maintained concerns about Medicaid. Medicaid showed up with a huge ask this past year. I got a feeling that they're going to show up with another deficit situation when the lawmakers get together in January, and then later on in the session when they start taking up appropriations. And they're going to have to go fund the deficits from last year. So you got that. The good news is our revenues are coming in steady, but as we continue to chip away at the income tax rate, got to wonder how much longer the increase in sales tax revenues will continue to offset it. So that's certainly a concern. With the midterms coming up, you've got some young voters, young conservatives, and they have been talking about in some recent interviews with various media outlets what's top of mind for them. And both parties see, of course, Gen Z voters as a crucial block. But you've got college students who gathered at Young America's Foundation's Freedom. That's at 250 conference in Washington, D.C. This was recently. And they're talking about this. It's good to see young people get engaged in the political and policy environment. I think that's good. They're feeling a bit hopeless right now. This is what a rising senior at the University of Wisconsin told Fox News Digital. They want to be able to have a home when they grow up. They want to be able to have a nice life and a good paying job. And what we've been seeing is that when those things don't come to fruition, people tend to go to the extremes. I absolutely agree, Will, that when you've got a bit of just discontent, that's when you can sweep in with some radical ideas. And I think that the Democrat socialists, honestly, are feeding on that. Hey, it ain't working for you the way it is. We got to just throw it out and turn it upside down, not really understanding that, no, that just makes it worse. They don't really get that. No doubt there's some issues that need to be addressed, and affordability is going to be top of the list. And you've got more people seem to be interested in this idea of Medicare for all, which I think would be a disaster. And, of course, I got to say this, the Republicans are pointing out, yes, you would pay taxes to participate in the Medicare for All program, but you wouldn't be paying commercial premiums. So it's a little bit disingenuous in that you're not really comparing your total out-of-pocket cost. You're just talking about that, yeah, we're going to raise taxes. Right. Now, it would be a disaster, and here's why. If you start reimbursing medical professionals in this country at Medicare rates, we'd lose half of them. Every hospital in America would crater. There's no doubt. That's not being considered. It's like Rhino says all the time, yeah, you got health insurance. That doesn't mean you got health care. And that's what we need to be concerned about, and that doesn't seem to be discussed. Nobody is in favor of talking about that. But it's something we need to be concerned about for sure. All right, a little James Brown bumping us out of this segment. Some good news on the affordability before we're out of this segment. A chicken glut is occurring right now, and that's dragging down the price of chicken. It's a good thing. Chicken glut. You don't see that very often.
That's what I had for lunch, chicken glut.
Exactly. All right, final segment coming up next.
Rally Up of Mississippi.
This show was previously recorded.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Football is here, and so is Sports Talk Mississippi. The boys are about to embark on their Not Fall Camp Tour, talking to coaches, players, and getting you ready for the start of the season. Tomorrow afternoon, Sports Talk Mississippi will be at the Landing in Starkville, where they'll have tons of giveaways. The Not Fall Camp Tour is presented by Pearl River Resort, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. Go to pearlriverresort.com for more info. So, just talking about this rise of socialism in this country and its newfound popularity. How about Zoran Mondami? I mean, I think he was the one that, I guess, was the shot heard around the world, you could say, Will, that when he got elected as mayor of America's biggest city and was very wide open about his socialist leanings and views.
Because he has actual true power. You know, a lot of these elected representatives like AOC and others, you know, they can propose things, and they certainly have influence and some degree of power, but they're not in executive positions.
Yeah, that's right. Don't have quite the stroke that, say, a mayor would. A mayor of 8 million people, right? So that's pretty big.
I mean, one of the largest, most powerful, certainly the most largest powerful city in the United States of America.
Yeah.
You know, some people have, said that's like running a small country.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. With a budget that exceeds the budget of the state of Florida.
Really?
Yeah. I think I'm right there. That it's insane, the amount of money they spend. And, of course, with a population that is a third of what Florida's is. But he has appointed Tracy Rosenthal as the mayor's housing guru and author of the book Abolish Rent. Not kidding. Now, get this, Will. She grew up.
Oh, let me before you say that. Let me guess.
Yeah.
She grew up in a very poverty-stricken family. Had to work hard all of her life to get where she is. You know, generations of poverty and all this kind of. And she just worked so hard to get to this area where she could be in a position of authority. Right?
You would be wrong, my friend. You missed it just a little bit. She grew up in a $1.7 million apartment. She has an outstanding rent of $108,000. Oh my gosh! She lives in a $2,300 a month bed-stuy is what it's called. It's one room, essentially, with a bed in it. So she also is a trust fund baby. I didn't know this. I found this in just digging a little bit, whose daddy is a 4-time Grammy winner. So she one who comes from privilege. Now, here's a question, Will. Do we have anybody in the state of Mississippi that has sort of declared that they are Democrat socialists? I'm talking about in the political domain. Do we have anybody that's come out?
Not of DSA.
In fact, the Democrats, did they even have a candidate that they've announced for any offices coming up in the 2027 elections?
No.
I haven't seen anything.
No major ones. I mean, there may be some minor ones out there, but no major ones, especially not governor.
Yeah, I've seen nothing. And I'm a little surprised that there's not at least one person that has come out and said, yeah, they're going to be a candidate. So, I've said this before on the program. Well, I think that one of the things that's got, especially the young people in this country, thinking about leaning a little more heavily into this idea of socialism I like to describe or ascribe the reason to the fact that of what I call incumbency, that they've really never had it bad, terrible. I mean, most people in this country aren't worrying about a roof over their head and food. I'm not saying that there aren't people in those circumstances. I get it. I understand. Sometimes, however, I would argue that's of their own accord, of their own volition. That could be avoidable.
Would you rather be poor in 2026, or would you rather be poor in 1936?
And that's where I'm going. We had periods of time in this country where we experienced famine. I don't mean just a few people, and I know we have issues. We've talked to people, on our show before. We have issues like right here in our state, but a lot of that's a function of irresponsibility. When we have hungry children, when we have parents, caretakers at home that are running around with $200 purses, but their kids are hungry, or they got on $150 tennis shoes, but their kids are hungry. You know what I'm saying here. But, yeah, we actually have had famines in this country before. But capitalism and Western civilization have made us extremely wealthy, relatively speaking. And I think we've forgotten those days to a great extent. Just go back and look at some photos of the lines of people waiting for food in this country. Unfathomable. Coming right back after Fox News and SuperTalk News.
A SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.